Silvia, first of all, thanks so much for taking some time and chatting with us today.
Thank you for your time, Michael.
Let's jump in with, I guess, maybe the first question, and that is, what has Trout Unlimited Canada been up to since it was announced that there was potential up to some 6 to 7 coal mines being proposed along the eastern slopes?
Yeah, we've been following this actually even before this all started a number of years ago with Grassy, and then following through with all the changes that have been taking place with the current government. And certainly with the most recent changes and the new leases now available or available for exploration, let's say, we have been following this really quite a bit, offering information online to our supporters and our members. But we are a partner with the provincial government. And so we reached out to the provincial government, to Minister Nixon, to AEP, Alberta Environment and Parks, and requested a meeting. We thought, given that we have a good relationship with this government, it's prudent for us to meet with them and see what can be done to regain protections that have been lost. And so that's what we're in the process of doing. We've had our first meeting with the minister. We're due to get some information back to his team, and there's been a request for another meeting as well from the minister himself. So we're hopeful that we can make some gains by working with the government at this time.
Now, when you say you're partnered with, maybe you could just go a little bit further into that. What does that partnership look like?
Sure, absolutely. So I want to clarify, first of all, I know there's been some talk that we're funded by the government. We're not funded by the government, absolutely not funded by the government. But the government does partner with us on a number of projects, including the fish rescue, which you know quite well, Michael, and I'm sure many of your viewers and listeners know, where we've repatriated and saved near 1 million fish so far. And that's done in partnership with the provincial government. Same with a lot of the rehabilitation work, restoration work that we do in the eastern slopes is done in partnership with government agencies and government staff. And so, we have a mandate to conserve, protect, and restore, but we also have values that say we are partnership builders and we work with our partners towards positive gains. And as long as the government is willing to work productively with us and talk with us, we'll continue those conversations in the hopes that we can realize some gains.
So has there been, I guess, enough information in your mind that the province has provided you that you feel that there is still a way forward to work collaboratively in trying to use your words, enhance, protect our freshwater resources?
I think there is opportunity to regain protections. And it is within, I believe, the department's power and Minister Nixon's power to help regain those protections. And so as long as we believe that there is hope to do that, and the government continues to work productively with us, I think it's incumbent on us to utilize that relationship to try and reach those gains. Yes.
So let's just maybe back up one little step. And I do know that Trout Unlimited did a presentation at the Grassy Mountain panel. Your thoughts there? I mean, to me, we're looking at significant impact, potential impact on some species at risk. Is your position, you feel solid enough that everybody, including the federal environment minister down to the provincial level, understands the risk and those protections need to be put in place?
I can't speak for the staff and government agencies in what they do or don't understand. For us, it is very clear that the risk greatly outweighs the gains, not only in Grassy, but in coal mining in the eastern slopes. We have significant concerns here. There is no doubt that there will be significant environmental damage as a result of this in a number of different ways. Grassy is of grave concern to us. There's no doubt about that, which is why we spoke out in opposition to it. But again, I can't speak to what the staff of the federal or provincial agencies is thinking or knows. I'm hopeful that they see and hear what we've seen and hear and heard, and have come to the same conclusion. That's our hope. I'm sure that's everyone's hope.
I guess, and I poorly worded the question perhaps, but when we're talking about species at risk, there are protections in place that the federal government has responsibilities for. Is it your hope that they do look at that and enact the protections required?
Yes, absolutely. You know, the Species at Risk Act is there for a reason. And the fact that we've got in Alberta multiple species at risk actually listed in just the last few years should be a warning signal to everyone, to the provincial government here and to the federal government. And, you know, Sarah, the Species at Risk Act is there for a reason. We certainly hope that it gets enacted, that it gets pushed forward. It's the reason it exists.
When we look at what's happening, sorry, in the Elk River Valley, is that a cautionary tale?
Well, you know, I think when the U.S. government starts approaching, you know, Canadian provincial agencies over concerns of water quality, you know, that's a sad day for me. It's a sad day that we're not the gold standard, that we're not, you know, taking better care of our watersheds, given that they have less pressure, our watersheds have less pressure than they do in the US. So, yeah, I think this is a grave concern. We should be learning from what's happened. The selenium issue has not been dealt with. Industry has not found a way to mitigate or mediate the selenium issue, amongst other issues. That's not the only environmental impact. And so I understand that there needs to be a balance. We need metallurgical coal. Currently, that is a need, but there needs to be balance. And I think what we're missing in Alberta is that cost benefit analysis, the what's in the best interest of Albertans, including the environmental side of that. And I think that's what's been lost with the big loss in the loss of the coal policy.
So you mentioned balance. I guess we can differ a little bit. I'm not sure that a balance can be reached. I feel that we give up something to have something else. That said, where do you find that balance in terms of is it okay, we allow one mine and then that mine is done and then we move on to the next after reclamation, rather than having full scale active mining all at once? I'm just trying to understand where you think the balance is.
I'm not exactly sure where that balance is, if I'm being particularly honest. What I do know is that we have a limited, in Alberta especially, we're water poor in Alberta. What I mean by that is naturally, due to our geography, we have the least amount of water per hectare. We also have the hardest working watersheds in Canada, amongst the hardest working watersheds, because of that low density of water. And so you know, intellectually, I understand that we need coal. I can't resolve how in Alberta that can be done in a way that maintains the ecological stability and resilience of our watersheds for the Albertan community. So I don't know that we can find the balance in Alberta for both, but really that's up to other people to try and figure out. I think for us, it's really about making sure that we protect these already stressed systems from hitting that tipping point and essentially dying out.
I guess, Sylvia, one of the things that's still on the table is what can the average Albertan do to get involved in this process and help you reach out to the various partners that you need to reach in terms of sending a message about the dangers, the hazards of moving forward with active mines in the Eastern Slopes.
Thanks for raising that question, Michael. In all honesty, it's incumbent on every Albertan, actually every Canadian who's visited the Eastern Slopes and who's vacationed here, to have their voice heard, and have their voice heard in whatever way they feel comfortable, in whatever manner works for them. It's going to take more than one tactic to make the change we want to see happen on the ground, to realize protections. And different individuals have different opportunities, and different organizations have different skills, different relationships. And like Trout Unlimited, for example, I think we're morally obligated to try and utilize that relationship to realize those gains. So we just call on everyone to do what they can, because it will take multiple tactics to really realize the gains we need to see.
Any idea when your next talks are set for, Sylvia?
No, we haven't set a date yet. We've got some homework ourselves. We noted that there are a number of gaps in protections in Alberta right now, particularly in the eastern slopes. The minister has offered to review what we identify as gaps, and if gaps do exist, he's committed to filling those gaps. So it's in our court right now, and we'll be getting some information back to the minister's team and schedule the next meeting.
Are you able to share what those gaps are?
In big picture terms, yes. As I said, that cost benefit analysis, that is essentially what was done when the coal policy was put in place in determining whether or not even exploration of an area was in the best interest of the citizens of Alberta. And that's, I'm not talking just economics or social, I'm talking environment as well. I think that's a significant piece. The other significant gap that we see is a lack of cumulative impact thresholds, which they're open to talking about as well. So there's a number of gaps that I think we can identify and we can work with the province to fill. And like I said, our hope is to not only regain protections, but increase protections.
I guess that's another issue, is the long-term impact. I mean, we're seeing apparently results of selenium in the McLeod area that are far higher than anyone, I think, recognized, even after the mine had stopped working after dozens of years.
Yes. Yeah, that is of grave concern, of course. And as I said, the industry hasn't really figured out how to manage selenium as a product of their systems. And so, it's of concern for us that you have a significant impact that we've known about for decades and decades that hasn't been mitigated or managed, that there isn't new technologies, that there isn't an option. And to allow that to continue, I think is not a responsible move for us as Canadians.
I know that you folks are big on partnerships. You've already outlined the working relationship you have with the province. I guess, does that extend to the coal industry? Have you had any ability to sit down with Robin Campbell, for example, and express concerns and see if there's a path forward that way?
No, we haven't, but we're not opposed to doing something like that at all. We started with the partnerships we have. But we're also a big believer that policy and legislation and the way we build our government is the key point in how we manage our landscapes. And so yes, we can, and we're more than willing to talk with coal companies, absolutely. But we also need to tackle the bigger picture, and that is, how do we handle not only coal, but how do we handle development, exploration in the foothills period? So for us, this is even bigger than coal. This is, how do we protect the foothills?
I guess, yeah, it really does come down to, what do we want our province to look like?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's, and I apologize, I said the foothills, the eastern slopes. What do we want our landscapes to look like, and what do we expect them to be, 50, 100 years from now? What do we expect to see and have available to us?
Well, that is a question I hope you and I can continue to talk about in the near future. Sylvia, thank you so much for your time today and your insight, and the great work that Trout Unlimited is doing, not just here in Alberta, but right across Canada.
Really appreciate that, Michael. Thanks.